What is up, folks? Welcome to the newest episode of the Harold McBasketball podcast. I am your gracious host, as always, Harold McBasketball, with my co-host, I Know Ball Paul. As always, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Harry. Enjoying my day today. Glad to be back. Some people were saying it wasn't possible. We would never be back. And I'm excited. We have a great show planned.
Hello? Hey.
Somebody claimed their throat. Oh!
Okay, can I help you, sir?
Sean? Our good friend Sean?
How'd you get the link to this Zoom?
I have my ways. I think you guys have known this for quite a while.
Sean, you've been a huge supporter of the show. It's great to have you on. How are you?
I know, Ball Paul. It's great to be here. You know, I have been one of the day one, if you will, the day ones. I'm really excited to be here. I appreciate being able to be a part of the show as it's starting to really find its feet, and just talk about ball.
That's great. Well, we're planning a 2021 redraft today. So are you down to join us for that?
Absolutely. I've definitely have. I have my thoughts there, and there's quite a few players that would be moving around on my draft board.
It's going to be interesting.
Fantastic.
I think we're going to get some angry reviews. Now, just off the top of my head, since we have you here and we've been kind of teasing a name draft, you are somebody that goes by many names. You have many characters that you've developed over the years, such as Dr. Eugene Lawrence, EL, Eugene the Dream Baum, or more famously, as many people know you, Keats motherfucking Momentum. So who better to do a name draft with than you, Sean?
I appreciate that, and I also appreciate, of course, you getting Dr. Eugene Lawrence, EL, Eugene the Dream Baum's name correct. That is commonly spoken incorrectly, so it's important that, of course, you got that right. So yeah, I'd be happy to do supervise a name draft and see what you guys can come up with here.
Yeah. So I think Harry and I will come up with a starting lineup, 5 guys each, and you'll give us your reactions and decide a winner. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how we're gonna do this is draft style. So one of us will start. We didn't really decide that I'm gonna start, okay, because the podcast is named after me. So I'll start off, then Paul goes, and we'll keep doing the draft that way. So that way we can snipe players from each other. We'll see who's got the best list. There's a lot of NBA players. I'd be surprised if we snipe too many picks from each other, but
yeah,
I don't know. There are a couple of fan favorites, so who knows? We may end up doing that. And we also appreciate your support, Sean. Sean's been one of our highest paying patrons, so let it be known that, once you hit about $1,000 in donations, you are very welcome to come on the show. So keep that in mind.
All right. With the first overall pick, Harry, who?
I'm gonna take, and this is kind of like a tough pick because I definitely debated back and forth. Like, do I go super memey here with the first pick, or do I just take an absolute classic? I decided to go classic. I went Magic Johnson. I just think it's such a good name. I think Magic's an amazing first name. I think it's one of the best nicknames ever. Such a good nickname that it pretty much became his first name. And he's also one of the best players ever. I think Magic is an easy 1-1 for me.
Yeah, that's a very solid pick. Immediate reaction, Sean?
I think I agree with Harry in that having a player nickname transcend their actual name is pretty important. Definitely going to give me a lot of, in my opinion, if I was to rank that, that's a lot of points go towards that. If the player's name is not even what you come to, I mean, his name is Irvin. Who's like, oh yeah, remember Irvin Johnson? No, nobody knows who Irvin Johnson is. So, I think that's a very solid start here.
Let's go. Hot start. All right, Paul, who you got? Who's your first pick?
So I think we're going to realize very quickly that we took different approaches here, and I'm definitely very much catering to the judge here. So
okay. I have some pander picks as well, so don't worry, they're coming. I just had to hit hard with my first pick. So what you got?
I'm going to grab Melvin Eli.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you a fact about Melvin Eli other than Sean loves that name. And I was one of those guys that I even doubted was one of Sean's characters or a real NBA player. And sure enough, he's a real NBA player. So Melvin Eli is off the board. Sean, reaction.
Yeah, he was a former Cleveland Cavalier. He was a hot, 2K commodity in the early 2010s. Pretty awful in the NBA, amounted to next to nothing, and I believe is no longer in the league, but definitely an excellent first choice as well. High value as far as meme goes, and that's definitely going to be part of the rating scale here is the memery of the name/nickname of the player.
I'm sorry, is this a meme draft or a name draft? Because his name is Melvin Eli, and it's just not really doing anything for me. I mean, Melvin's kind of a bland name. Eli's kind of a bland last name. I don't see the appeal here. I don't know. He's not for me.
Well, you're not the judge.
Well, I think you have to look at it too, right? It's a bit of both. You're going to have names like a Magic Johnson that's iconic, unique, but you also have a Melvin Eli, where Melvin is kind of it is a meme name, and it is funny to in the 2010s and 2023. Hey, what's your name? Hey, I'm Melvin. Oh, okay. What do you do? I'm an NBA basketball player named Melvin. Like, you're lying at that point. So I support the choice. I think it makes sense, and I'm excited to hear what else you guys have going here.
I think I'm going to swoop in for my pander pick then in the second round. This is someone who I had 4th overall anyway. I think absolutely fantastic name, but also the meme value is off the charts. So with my second pick, I'm going to go with Luke Richard Mbah-a-Moute.
Fuck.
Of course. I knew it was coming one way or another. Excellent choice here. I mean, you could have gotten a little bit more bonus points with the Lord in the front of his name, of course. Lord Luke Richard Mbah-a-Moute. But,
I figured I'd give you the chance to throw that out there.
Yeah. No, excellent pick. I mean, he was a decent, not really good journeyman in the NBA for quite a while. There is conversations I've heard that he was actually helpful in discovering Joel Embiid, I believe. I believe they're from the same country.
Oh. Yeah,
so he, in terms of his NBA career, didn't really amount to much. In terms of his overall legacy within basketball spheres, he deserves his title as Lord. So excellent.
Will he make the Hall of Fame for that, for discovering Joel Embiid? Does that make him a Hall of Famer?
There's probably going to be conversations, I believe, of when Jerry West inevitably no longer becomes the logo of the NBA. Will it be Luke Richard Mbah-a-Moute? That's a very valid conversation. I think that will be had.
Well,
yeah. First discussed on this podcast.
Yeah. Okay, moving along.
All right. Who you got?
I really wanted Luke Richard to round up.
that should have been your 1-1. I think you messed up going with Melvin there.
I think I did, yes. So for my second pick, I'm gonna go for a name that I had never heard until it showed up in Cena's crossover grid. He was Googling names clearly and cheating, but we got a diamond out of it in Purvis Ellison.
Ah, yes. Never nerfed Purvis. He was a number 1 overall pick. He actually won 6th Man of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year at one point.
Wow.
He was a very good player in college. I believe he played for Louisville. Was horrible in the NBA, but very interesting first name, and definitely you have to question, from a legal standpoint, what he may be participating in outside of basketball. That's really all. Oh no, that's all I have to say there. All
right. Well,
myself.
Paul starting off with Eli and Ellison, so I like it. I feel like the names go together nicely.
If you just say Eli and Ellison, it's shitty and it drops my stock.
Purvis is a great first name. I got no hate. I got no hate for it. This is also gonna be a side tangent, but I was thinking about this the other day with the basketball grid. But I was like, is Andrea Bargnani the best bust number 1 overall pick? Because he objectively sucked. We also played in the league for 10 or 12 years.
That's actually a good point, because he averaged 18 points per game a couple of years for the Raptors. He
was like a solid role player, awful first overall pick, but decent role player.
That's actually among the bad number 1 overall picks. Yeah, he actually could be. I'd have to really think about that, but he might be the best of the busts.
That's what I think. All right, I don't want to spend too much time on this because like I don't know. I threw that out there. We really need to like deep dive into all the busts to figure out like who could have been the best contributor. You know, Ben Simmons had like 2 seasons, so, like hey, maybe.
Yeah, I
But
put Ben Simmons over him. But
yeah, maybe, but he only had like 3 good. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. He's still got a career to go. I'm going with my 3rd overall pick. I'm gonna go with fan favorite, fantastic name, Celtics legend, Taco Fall. Love the name. Great height. Great meme. He's my 3rd round pick.
yeah, I mean, that's another one that you can't really go wrong with. It sucks for the guy because, yeah, he didn't really do much in the NBA, and I've been hearing conversations that he's trying to make some form of a comeback in the NBA, and you know, it's
He's
probably
still
not
on G
gonna
League
work out.
teams.
He's
The
still on a
the
G
free
League
throw
team.
the free throw form gets worse and worse every season. It's definitely I don't know who his shooting coach is, but like they're not helping him.
Yeah,
We'll
it's
see
just
though.
tough for
The
a player
comeback might
like
be on the
that.
way.
Yeah, it just sucks because he's almost like a circus attraction, which is like,
Ouch.
I mean, it sucks. It's sad because you look at the way that Celtics fans, when he would come into games, it was like this. Yeah, it's like a circus attraction coming into the game. Whereas somebody like Wemby, who's obviously also like this crazy, tall, lanky, borderline not even human person, comes in, but he's also, you know, extremely talented and coordinated and able to immediately, like, he'll come into the NBA and he'll make an immediate impact. And it's tough. I feel bad for Taco Fall. Good meme pick, you know, good name. It's too bad that it's pretty much all he's going to be known for.
Yeah, a little bit of a depression pick there, but very memeable. All right, Paul, 3rd pick.
I'm realizing we should have done a snake draft. Luke Richard should be on my team for the record.
Oh, fuck out of here. Fuck out of here.
Okay.
Snake is too complicated. We would never keep that straight with 2 people. But you're right. Maybe we'll do Snake next time.
Yeah. So maybe that should be weighed into the judging. Anyway,
No.
for my 3rd pick, I'm going to go Rakeem Christmas.
Oh, that's a good one.
Wow.
That was a good one. He was on my long list.
That is
the name Christmas.
That's
I
a
know.
blast from the
Unreal.
past.
Great pick. And like was like a rotation player for like a couple of years. Was it the Pistons that he? Oh, sorry, Pacers. That's who he played for, right?
Could not tell you.
Okay. I feel like it was the Pacers. Who cares?
Do you
Great
have
pick
any
though.
Christmas lore, Sean?
I'm sorry?
Any Christmas lore?
I know he played for Syracuse was the big one. I know that it was him and Scoop Jardine played together, which is another great meme player name.
Took him off my list. No, I'm kidding.
For some extra lore there. But yeah, good meme pick. I haven't heard that name in a decade at least. Sucked in the NBA, but good for this list.
All right, Harry, your 4th pick.
Let's see. I'm gonna look at this. There's one name I really want to go with here, so I'm gonna go with the one name wonder, Nene.
There you go. Honestly, I think as funny as his name being just Nene, I actually prefer Nene Hilario. Like if you go with that, I find
the
that
deep lore.
Yeah.
The issue is that's like not legally his name anymore. He legally changed it to just Nene. So I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Actually,
yes, yeah, it's legally just Nene now. Apparently, it was like Brazilian professional athletes. It's like common for them to only have one name. So to align with that, he's like, I'm just Nene now. They're just Nene.
All right.
Famously, the Brazilian Ronaldo is just Ronaldo.
He has no other
Cristiano.
name.
Yeah, there you go. He's just Ronaldo.
Interesting.
So Nene, formerly known as Nene Hilario.
All right, it's like the Prince of Brazil, I guess.
Okay. That's a great pick.
Official as of now. All right, Paul, 4th pick.
I'm going to go with, this is a name that I can already hear Jacob Stone laughing as I will announce it. Kobe's uncle, fun fact, or godfather or something like that. Chubby Cox.
Ooh, exquisite.
I'm laughing at you knowing that Stone would laugh at that. Any lore you could provide on this player? Because truthfully, I don't even know who this is. If he's like a legal citizen of the States, when did he play? What position?
I believe he's Kobe's uncle. Or godfather. I don't know much of the lore.
Because the thing is, oh yeah, okay, yeah, never mind. I think that plays. I was gonna say, what about Bean Bryan? But that's his dad, right? His dad is Bean, isn't it?
Yeah, Bean is Cox's brother-in-law.
Okay,
So,
got it. We're getting into the deep lore right now.
Wow. All right. Yeah.
played for the Washington Bullets for one season.
Yeah. An 8th round pick. All right.
Oh my God, did he only play for 1 year?
He
8th round.
Oh my God, how is there ever 8 rounds in the NBA draft? Excuse me, like, do just like all the players get cut after like the first month of summer league? Like, there's like, oh, this is great, but like we only have 15 roster spots and we drafted like 10 extra guys. So
well, you have to think too.
and I think this was before summer league also. So I think they literally just got cut.
Before summer league and also before expansion, and I don't know if the ABA was a thing, like if they'd integrated into the NBA yet. So you're thinking like there's probably half the teams that are currently in the NBA were in that then too. So it's like you're fighting for half of the roster spots available minus the minor league system of the G League. That's a disaster.
Never knew
Yeah,
that.
I feel like that was probably before they really had this whole thing figured out. I think the NBA was probably still a little bit of a mess.
A little bit.
I don't know. Chubby Cox only 1 year played though. Fringe player, does he count? I'll let it slide. But
1 year makes him eligible, Harry.
oh my God, I did not read the fine print. Fine, okay. 5th round. I'm gonna think on this one. I really want to make sure I hit it out of the park here. I feel like there's still tons of good names left, like some modern players, some older players, some great players, some busts left. God, this is hard. Let's see. I think the vibes are right with. I'm gonna go with Stromile Swift. I think it's eloquent. I think it's a super fun name, and the guy threw down unreal dunks, and I think his name very much went with his play style. I'm going with him for my last pick.
He's known as one of the biggest draft busts of all time. I believe he was
But his highlights though, they were there. Like I see the vision. I see why he was taken so high watching him play. He just couldn't really like do anything, but he looked awesome when he actually did something.
He sucked, but he looked good while he was trash. Okay.
Yeah. You know, it goes 1 for 10, but like one of the dunks is him like throwing down on the tallest guy on the court. Like, oh, that works for me.
Yeah. A solid meme pick to round out your roster there, sir.
Yeah, I feel like we really need that. I feel like he hit on some of everything that I needed to really fill out my starting lineup.
Yeah. No, I like what we got going here, and I'm curious to see how Drake can counter you with his final pick here.
All right, yeah. What you got? I feel like this is an important pick for you. I feel like you need a big one to compete right now.
No, Harry. No, I just need to not mess it up, and I have this in the bag.
Let's see what you got then. Don't mess it up then. What do you have?
Okay. So for my final pick, I think I've gone pretty heavy with the meme picks. Okay. And in my head, I'm debating, hey, maybe DJ Strawberry, maybe Ennis Freedom, maybe Diamond Stone. And that's a bit cheeky right there because I'm just listing off all these players. But my official selection, I'm going to go kind of just a cooler name that I've always absolutely loved. And I love the player as well. Without further ado, my last pick, Kentavious Caldwell Pope. I just love
the Pope himself.
It's a solid.
Pope is a sick last name. It's the triple.
Yeah. Religious leader.
Sean, reaction?
Spiritual leader, allegedly, for the Denver Nuggets this year. Part of why they ended up winning the championship. So, yeah, a solid ending pick for you. I will say a couple meme picks that I was thinking about myself. I was curious to see if they may be mentioned or not. It was definitely Maurice or Mo Cheeks. Definitely a fan favorite.
Good one.
Definitely was expecting that. Honestly, one that I personally kind of like similarly to you, Paul, in that you kind of just like Kentavious Caldwell Pope's name. I always have really enjoyed Ayo Dosunmu. I just like the fact his first name is Ayo to me. So was thinking those two could potentially end up making it on these lists. They didn't, which is fine. You guys came prepared with a lot of other really good picks, some of which both just some unique, interesting names and some total memes, which that's what I was really looking for, was a variety of both.
So do you want us each to recap and then you choose a winner?
I wrote down both of your lists as we were going, so I have them both in front of me right now.
Did you recap?
Let's do a final presentation though. Yeah, recap anyway. All right, I'll start us off. So my picks were Magic Johnson, Luke Richard Mbah-a-Moute, Taco Fall, Nene, and Stromile Swift.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Paul.
My picks were Melvin Ely. Then I went Purvis Ellison. Then I went, I think, Chubby Cox. Then Rakeem Christmas. And then Contavious Caldwell Pope to round it out.
My team's definitely winning 5-on-5.
Yeah,
They're just playing ball.
Yeah, I mean, Harry's team definitely comprises of more legitimate NBA talent. Players deserve to be in the league and say that that's what they did for their career. Thinking about both of these rosters here, I think that in terms of looking at it from like unique and I guess you could even say cool names, Harry's roster, in my opinion, definitely has a little bit more of that with, again, like the Magic Johnson pick, something like Nene, that's, a one-name player, that's pretty unique, and Taco Fall. However, I will say for Paul, the meme picks to me definitely really stood out. Purvis Ellison, Chubby Cox, Rakeem Christmas. These are some really, S-tier meme name players here. It's a tough choice for me here to say which one I think I like better. I think the slightest of edges I'm going to give to Harry on this one, just for that having that Luke Richard Mbah-a-Moute pick that kind of was the trump card here.
Huge pick.
But I do really think there's merits to both lists, truthfully, and I'm impressed at what both of you brought here.
So maybe
your check is in the mail, Sean.
Hey, this was completely done, without any sort of bribery.
I wish Jacob Stone was the judge. I would have had that in the bag.
Oh my god.
Well,
okay. All right. I want to rip off some long list guys. There are a couple more guys I had on there that were like very close to making it on my list. As far as like non-meme guys go, it's like I thought Lonzo Ball was a good name. Last name's Ball. That's just a great basketball name. Lonzo's a very cool first name. I thought Dragan Bender. I was very close to taking him at one point. That is just like such a sick name. He sounds like he's straight out of Dragon Ball Z. Terrible player. Like,
awful.
And like from the start, I feel like most people knew he was gonna be terrible, and he was a little bit of it was kind of like the Porzingis effect, where after he got drafted, everyone just wanted to try to draft European centers and see if they were KP. Turns out they weren't. Other names, I thought Rip Hamilton, classic, awesome first name. And then some other meme ones I had was like I had OJ Mayo on there.
Yeah,
fun name.
Yeah,
Meta World Peace.
Apparently,
there was also. I almost did, like, I'm just like not the biggest Meta World Peace guy, like, and I feel like that meme's kind of been beat to death, where it's almost like 10 years ago that would have been the play, but like, I don't know, just doesn't do it for me anymore.
It's like it loses points. He changed it to Meta World Peace. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's also like World Be Free. Like World Be Free is the OG. He really just copied
World Be
him.
Free would have been good too.
Also on my long list.
Yeah, it's a good
and
one.
then let's see, who else did I have? I also had, apparently there's a guy called Fat Lever on there. I think he was kind of on par with like Chubby Cox. I thought I was very close to making that play, but I felt like I would have been trying too hard to balance out the Chubby Cox, and I was like, I'm not playing catch up here. All right, I'm just maintaining the lead. And I think those are kind of my big guys. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is a cool name too, so shout out to him, but wasn't going to take him.
He's a cheerleader anyway. He's not a real NBA player.
Giannis is pretty good, I think.
Oh, I thought you said his brother's name, so I was like,
what, Thanasis?
Yeah, like he's
that would have been the better play if I was going to pick one of them.
Right.
That would have been the player.
No, you would have lost immediately for that. I hate that guy. I would have given it automatically to Paul if you guessed him. So good on you for not including him.
I know better. I know my audience. And any
Yeah.
other honorable mentions?
I kind of sounded off at the end with I think I said Diamond Stone, Ennis Freedom. To add to that, Georgios Papagiannis.
Oh, and his freedom was such a good one. How did we not take freedom?
Yeah.
I was wondering if kind of the CIA affiliations would kind of tank his draft.
Yeah.
Could demonetize our YouTube also. I don't know, but YouTube loves the alt-right pipeline, so maybe that would have been good for
True.
views.
Hey, if
I'm
the
going to quickly
podcast
pivot away from that conversation. Ricky Rubio would be. I love the name Ricky Rubio. So
Also just an excellent name. I love the alliteration.
right.
Alliteration always plays. That's why I like Stromile Swift also just like rolls off the tongue so well. Yeah, I'm with that.
Okay. Yeah, those are all good picks there. I'm impressed with what you guys brought to the table. A lot of stuff that either I forgot about or didn't even know. Again, unfortunately, I kind of the fact that there was an unironic individual named Chubby Cox that exists, like he lived.
Poor dude. Tragic.
Yeah. It's just like being like Dick Van Dyke. It's like, how is that even real? And then in that guy's case, like he's a famous actor. That's just crazy.
Yeah, at least he was good. At least he was good at his profession.
Yeah.
Maybe it's why Chevy Cox got ostracized.
That's all he's known for is his dumb name.
Yeah, but maybe it's also why he got picked.
Could
I could
be.
talk myself into drafting Chevy Cox. Like if I was like in between two players and I was drafting like the 8th round, I'd be like, like we might as well get this guy. Like in the 8th round, no one's making our roster anyway, so
The 8th round of the
we
NBA
might as well
draft.
go with
Let's for
Chubby
the meme
Cox.
pick.
Yeah, you might as well.
All right.
All right. Well, any closing remarks, anyone?
Good on my end.
No, I would just say it's an honor to be selected as the winner of this. You know, I thought it was very deserving. I thought it was clearly evident that just like my name choices were far superior. So very excited. Thank you, Sean. And just send me the trophy whenever you get a chance.
Hey, I will say, you know, we don't want any sore winners here. I really do have to give credit to Paul here for, you know, picking some players that, you know, I didn't even know about or I totally forgot even existed. And it was a very close decision for me. I really think that it came down to that, you know, God tier pick of, you know, Lord Luke Richard Mbamute. It's, you know,
That was the God pick.
Close,
that was the God pick.
Very close battle. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, Harry, you'll be receiving your Golden Fedora trophy in the mail shortly.
God bless.
Mention trophy, as it's called. That was a fun segment. I think we should part 2 this and do the spicy, more challenging segment, the 2021 redraft. We'll be right back.
Yep. Absolutely. Stay tuned, everyone. Redraft coming in just a moment. All right. Without further ado, let's get into our 2021 NBA redraft. So we're going to be walking through top 10 picks of the draft, kind of like choosing our favorites, seeing what order we put them in. We can give some honorable mentions towards the end, but yeah, we're going to shake it up and see how we would do it if we were to go back and do it. I know it's still very fresh, but I think that's what kind of makes it fun. I don't think it's totally evident who should go where yet. So I think it's going to leave some spicy takes.
Yeah, we're putting our necks on the line because this draft, it's very tough to redraft, I must say. But this should be interesting. We'll look back and maybe cringe a bit, but let's do it.
Absolutely. I'll start us off. I'll throw something out there. I think mine is like it'll be a palate cleanser. It's a pretty easy one. I went back and forth with like picks 1 and 2 on this one, and I feel like this person's name has kind of been like, you know, been dragged through the dirt a little bit the last year, but I ended up just playing it safe and taking the same 1-1 and going with Cade. I think Cade is still unreal. Great talent, huge. He's like 6'8", averaged like 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists last season before getting injured. It was a small sample size, but I thought he still looked incredible. And I think the value of having a huge point guard like that is massive. And I think he's still my 1-1 looking at this draft. There have been some big risers for me. And I was close to picking one other guy at 1, but I decided to still go with Cade here.
Sean, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I am. And, despite the fact that he completely railroaded my fantasy team last year, a lot of Jacksonville Python fans, unfortunately, understand and have some choice words for Mr. Cunningham. You look at Detroit's roster, and that was something I was taking a look at previous to this draft. And, they were still actually touting out Blake Griffin and Jeremy Grant were their best players at the time. They had just drafted Killian Hayes as well. And it was pretty obvious from the onset that Hayes was probably the incorrect pick. He did fill in decently last year when
Killian
Cunningham was
Hayes
out.
sucks. He's terrible.
Yeah, I don't believe in him. I mean, his most notable career highlight was that nonsense fight that he got into last season. I believe it was with the Magic. And,
Classic.
getting a guy like Cunningham, who is a clear leader, he, sets the tone for a team, not just as a point guard, but as a player. He's a professional. You can tell he's there to play basketball, to win. I agree with you, Harry. He's who I would have taken again. Is it the safest pick? Yeah, I would say it is, but I think based on fit as well, it makes sense for Detroit to continue to go with that and to build around him.
And for
I
my
like it.
pick,
Yeah, give us your hot take, Paul. I know you don't have Cade, so who do you have?
of course I don't have Cade. I have Sengun. I have fucking Sengun.
Yeah,
My
fucking
Lord
knew
and
you would.
Savior.
Yeah, I mean, I think Detroit, they're in an interesting spot because it was pretty obvious that Blake Griffin wasn't going to stay, and they were going to offload him in some capacity. And they don't have, looking at this roster again, their best asset would have been Grant at the time, who hadn't quite evolved into that. Okay, he can actually kind of maybe get 20 a night, really good defender, decent 3-point shooter player, but you're not building around that guy obviously either. So they had a lot of options in terms of what type of team they wanted to build, and whether that was a team like, say, Philly, where they chose, okay, we're getting Embiid and we're building this team around Joel Embiid, or a team like Dallas where they get Luka and it's like, okay, our point guard is the best player on our team, we're going with that. So again, I didn't pick him, but taking Sengun first overall, Detroit was in a position where they could have kind of gone any direction they wanted to. Totally respect it.
Yeah,
I like
Sengun went 16th, so he wasn't
Right.
even
Not even
big
considered.
riser, and I have him shooting up my list too. I don't think he's in contention for that top spot. I think the talent is so evident. He's incredible offensively. Some of the best post moves in the league right now. Maybe the best post moves in the league right now. I think so.
maybe the flash is.
For sure, one of the best post passers in the league. It's obviously Jokic is in a tier of his own, but I think that next tier, Sengun, is easily in it. And he just looked incredible. And I think if he was given a bigger role by Silas, I think he easily could have had that top spot. My only concern is I just want to see a little more out of him defensively. I really want to see him get those minutes, 30 plus a night, and see how that goes. In the small sample sizes where he got it, his stats were insane. I don't have him in front of me, but it feels like when he was getting 30 plus minutes, every game, it was 20 points, 11 what's his per 36? His per 36, I actually have it in front of me. It was 18 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. That's insane to get that kind of production out of your center. I think he's incredible. I'm a huge fan. I think he's amazing. So I like that pick.
And word on the street is he's grown 2 inches this offseason.
He's the best. He's the best. He just kind of has T-Rex arms when he runs this. That's also just a little scouting, messes with me a little bit.
Interesting.
What I'll say is, I hear the concerns on defense. I think Cade is an excellent defender, great size, and he can guard up, no problem. Sengun, that's definitely a worry, but I'm not too worried about it from what I've seen on offense. And I think on defense, it's fine. I know there are some games where they really attack him in the pick and roll and the pick and pop, but I think that'll come with time. And I think, he's not that bad. He's pretty athletic, great positioning. So Sengun was my first.
Yeah. I think if he can just become a neutral defender, then unreal pick. And I think he's gonna be incredible in the league regardless. But I think that's gonna be the deciding factor of whether or not he does get into that next level tier. Good picks. I love it. I love the mix up, Paul. Here, this time we can snake it. So how about you give us your second overall pick?
So for my second overall pick, I went Evan Mobley. So
Also my second.
Still no Cade.
Interesting.
Yeah, again, the 1 through 4 was the whole draft was very tough. Okay. And Mobley, he was the McBasketball Defensive Player of the Year in the awards show. Go back and
That's true.
watch that episode.
More prestigious than the NBA Defensive Player of the Year award, if you will. Not muddied by the voting of, countless other people in the media. It's just those that know the most. So congrats again, Mobley. Very deserving. Continue, Paul.
Just an incredible defensive player, third in the league in just his second season in defensive rating. Shows some upside on offense, 100% as well. Decent rebounder, and he can just guard anybody. The offense leaves a bit to be desired. The 3 ball isn't there. That would be a very nice addition. I think that, hurts that Cleveland front court, but I don't know. To me, he just kind of looks like a generational talent in a lot of ways, and someone that I don't know. I get it's a vibe. It's a vibe. I 2 or 3. I went 2 for Evan Mobley.
Yeah, he's been incredible in his first 2 seasons, and I think, we're already starting to hear whispers that the Cavs would be potentially interested in moving Jared Allen in a move to save a little bit of money as the team gets expensive with Garland, Mitchell, and eventually Mobley when he gets his big extension. But once Mobley makes that move to center, I think that's going to unlock a lot of his offense and his defense, and he's going to take another big step. So I think that'll happen at some point. And even without that, I think he's an awesome power forward play. And he's someone who can really do it all. The defense is incredible. The offense is very solid, even if the shooting isn't all the way there yet. But to have someone be so impactful on defense and still feel like a positive offensive player is so rare to have. So I love Mobley. I think he's a great talent. I think he's a phenomenal pick here.
Did anyone have him at 2?
I had him at 2. Sean, who did you have at 2?
Yeah, I was going to actually take Sengun at 2 myself. And
Oh.
I think that with, not so much talking about Sengun, we've kind of gone over him quite a bit at this point, but more so on the Mobley pick. And I guess this also goes into my evaluation of both Mobley and Scotty Barnes. Both of them last year, or I should say during their rookie season, it was between those 2 players as to who was going to end up winning Rookie of the Year. It ended up going to Barnes, and both players ended up sort of having some regression in their second year. And I understand that it is pretty early for both of them still. I do get the impression with, when you look at Mobley in the playoffs, and again, it was his first year in the playoffs. He's a second-year player. But he did struggle quite a bit offensively. He shot 45% from the field against the Knicks, which as a big, that leaves a lot to be desired because, he can't shoot threes at all, really. He shot 21% during the regular season from 3. So while I agree with everything that was said about Mobley from the defensive standpoint, for me, when I'm looking to put this together, when I put my list together, somebody like Sengun, he could be the centerpiece of a team. He could be the type of player that in a few years is the leader of the Houston Rockets. Mobley will never be that player for Cleveland. He will never be like Evan Mobley's team. It will be Donovan Mitchell's team. The Cleveland Cavaliers go as far as Donovan Mitchell goes, and that isn't to take away from Mobley as a player, because what he brings as a defender is excellent. I'll shout out Jaren Jackson Jr. I love Jaren Jackson. He won Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA, and in my opinion, rightfully so. But he's not what drives Memphis. It's as far as Ja Morant can take Memphis. So for me, I couldn't put Mobley at 2, as good of a defender as he is. I don't believe that if I'm choosing between a guy like Sengun or a guy like Mobley, and it's like, this is the person I'm building my team around, because keep in mind as well, when they drafted Mobley, they didn't have Donovan Mitchell yet. So that's the perspective I'm looking at it from with a lot of these players too, is what did that team look like when they were making these decisions? Because it's pretty easy now, especially with a team that like Cleveland, the way that it's currently built. But for me, I would still have to go with Sengun at 2. But Mobley, you'll see as we keep going through this, I don't disagree with anything that was said about him. I just think that for me, Sengun gives you that long-term possible franchise cornerstone.
Where did Mobley fall for you in your draft?
So I guess to sort of spoil it, he was actually going to be, for me, 4. I was going to put Scotty Barnes and then Evan Mobley at 4.
Ow. Fair enough there. Take your pick there. Yeah, I don't know. I will say I love Mobley, and I think there's huge value when you get an instant impact guy who can really hold down the 3. And also when I'm doing my evaluations, like I don't particularly care who the team is. For me, it's all about just who's the best player on the board. Like I'm never drafting for fit. I never think teams should draft for fit, especially this high. So I'm kind of just going off who I think is the best guy right now to take. It was very close between these top 3 guys. Like I definitely considered having Sengun a little bit higher. That's my 3rd guy. I slotted him at 3. I think it's a fair spot. I feel like I've seen a little bit more out of Cade and Mobley, but it sounds like we're all in alignment that those guys are near the top. But Sean, elaborate on your Barnes pick at 3. Go off.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at a player like Scotty Barnes, and not just because of the team that he plays for, but a lot of the players that he plays with, between Siakam, between OG Anunoby, and between obviously a former Raptor and Kawhi Leonard, I get a lot of similar vibes to those type of players and what Scotty Barnes could be. A lot of people forget with Kawhi in particular, he was horrible as a shooter when he came into the NBA. His shot was broke. His technical, the technique that he had on his shot was just completely raw. And, through working with San Antonio, he completely reconstructed his jump shot. And he's a 40% shooter from 3 now. He's, one of the best mid-range shooters in the game. And when I look at Scotty Barnes, he's in a similar situation right now. He regressed. He had a sophomore slump for sure. He shot significantly worse from both the field and 3-point last year. Again, it was a notable Jacksonville Python. So I had, I was very consistently keeping track of, how he was playing. And I see a lot of that type of Kawhi Leonard type potential in him. I'm not saying he would get to that point, but for me, if you can get a guy who is an all-star caliber forward, who's able to shoot 40%, guard any player 2 through 5 on the floor, at least 2 through 4, probably 1 through 4 in his case, can distribute a little bit. That was the one thing that he did improve on last season, was his distribution, and his playmaking ability definitely improved. So for me, again, the way that I see it, Evan Mobley's ceiling to me is something like a Tyson Chandler. And at peak, Tyson Chandler was excellent. He was a defensive player of the year for the Knicks. The Mavericks don't win the 2011 championship without him. But that's kind of where I see Evan Mobley at. Whereas a Scotty Barnes type player, that's another guy that maybe he's not your 1, but he could definitely be your 2, your Chris Middleton type player. And that's kind of where my logic is as far as ranking Barnes ahead of Mobley. But truthfully, it's kind of a toss-up. They're both very good prospects.
Yeah, I'm going to just give it away. He's 7th on my list.
He's 6th on mine. I also have him it's kind of close to where he got drafted. It's not like he's falling off big time, but I don't know. The vibes are just a little bit off from me with Scotty Barnes. There's a couple of guys that I've grown to love a little bit more, and I can just see them developing a little bit more. It's I wish I saw a little more out of Scotty. We'll kind of figure out big time with him this up and coming year. Now that Fred VanVleet is gone, he'll have more ball handling duties, more passing duties, but he felt a little bit sloppy and inefficient last year. And I think there are some guys that might already be doing a little bit better. And I think could potentially have a higher ceiling. So he fell a little bit for me.
No, it's totally fair too. And you look at the Raptors last year, and that team was just a complete disaster as it was.
Yeah,
so
they were dumpster fire.
I'm not writing it off as he had a bad season because the whole team was crap. That's, not fair to say, but at the same time, okay, they've sort of reset expectations. They don't, like you said, they don't have VanVleet anymore. Let's see what he can do now in a bigger role. He needs to, elevate and step it up at this point. He doesn't have that point guard anymore that was helping him out. Let's see what happens. I'd also be curious to see too if they end up doing something with OG. I'm really surprised they didn't trade him, because if they didn't, then he would have nobody in his way outside of Siakam, really.
Yeah, I still feel like OG can fit their timeline. I think he's young enough.
Yeah.
Doesn't really need to have the ball. Like you can, I feel like you can kind of just like put him on the 3-point line, have him play off of Barnes. So I don't hate them still holding on to him, but I do wish they'd kind of made some of their roster moves a little bit sooner. I wish they moved off Van Fleet last year. Wish they moved off Siakam, but we'll see. Okay, Barnes talk. Paul, who'd you have it for? We definitely have the same guy at 4.
Okay, well, so just real quick, Sengun's my 1, Mobley's my 2, Cade
Yep.
is my 3.
Got it.
Cool. Yeah. So that. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And my 4th is like almost tied with Cade, if not tied with Cade. And I know for a fact Harry and I have the same guy. It's Josh Giddey.
Yep. Of course, he's so
Love
good.
that.
He's so fucking good.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is Giddey is the youngest player in this draft, or in the top 10 to 15. He's 20 years old, turns 21 in October. I think Kuminga might be a couple days younger. But Giddey's super young, and I just love him. I mean, he plays at such a high level already, such a smart player. I mean, I don't think I have to go too into details, but we saw a massive improvement in his scoring last year. He makes it look so easy. He's tall, he rebounds. And again, I'm super bullish on this OKC team. And a big reason is I think Shea is the superstar, but Giddey and soon Chet, I think, are going to be awesome pairings with him. And going to be the makings of a great team.
Yeah, I agree. I think Josh Giddey is already one of the best passers in the league. Last year, he jumped up to 16 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. And I think he could average way more assists, too, if that Thunder team wasn't so stacked. He has to share a lot of touches with SGA, but I think he was running point by himself. He could get a lot closer to 10 assists per game. But he's such an unselfish player that he doesn't need to, and he still impacts so well, even when he doesn't start with the ball in his hands. Super good at swinging it, keeping the offense moving. I think he's already a player that can elevate any offense, and I absolutely love that. I think he's great. I think he's already a huge impact player.
8 rebounds is
and he's also huge and has amazing hair.
Sean, anything to say about Josh Giddey? Where did he fall on the list?
He's definitely.
Where'd you have him?
I had him at 5, so not too differently from you guys. Again, everything that you said, completely agree with. Definitely a little bit to be desired from a 3-point shooting perspective, but otherwise, and that is something that I am curious to see. I know Shai isn't the greatest 3-point shooter, so I'm curious to see how they end up sort of surrounding Giddey and Shai. I always mispronounce his name. Is it Shai?
Yeah, Shai.
I always say Shai, but I could see the Canadians pronouncing it Shy.
Yeah, I'm, uncultured, but I'm curious to see how they rectify that. That being said, excellent player. Everything I've watched from him, he's just always, like you said, Paul, he's a smart player. Like you can always see he's trying to make the right play. Very unselfish. And yeah, no, I mean, you guys kind of said a lot of what I would have been thinking there. But I think we're kind of aligned that at absolute worst, yeah, top 5 for sure.
Yeah. And I think closing remark is like, although his 3-point shooting isn't great yet, it feels like that's the last thing he needs to improve upon. And he definitely is. Like he already took a jump with his 3-point shooting last year. His form looks really good. And I think he's slowly going to progress to at least be, a valid 3-point shooter. I think he'll probably get up to 35, 36% in the next season or two. And I think that's all he really needs to round out his game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So maybe a quick recap. So my 1, Sengun, 2, Mobley, 3, Cade, 4, Giddey. Harry, what's your top 4? Have you given your top 5? Maybe?
I only have my top 4 right now. Right now it's Cade, Mobley, Sengun, Giddey.
Awesome. And Sean?
I had Cade, Sengun, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, and Giddey at 5.
Giddey at 5. Okay, so Harry, who is your 5?
My 5 is Jalen Green.
Wow.
I'm still kind of bullish on Jalen Green. I think people have kind of hopped off the Jalen Green bandwagon. because the Rockets were a disgusting watch last year. Horrifically inefficient team. Jalen Green was a big part of them being terribly inefficient, but he passes the eyeball test. Like his handle is super tight. He's incredibly athletic. He can take very tough shots. And like if you're gonna tell me I can draft a player in his second year who averaged 22 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, that sounds pretty good to me. Like I love the upside of a player like that. I think he can be like a very high, 20-point scorer. I can see him averaging 27, 28 in his peak. I just think the biggest question about him is like, is he gonna be able to do it efficiently? Like, is he gonna be able to take that step to become an elite scorer? Or is he more like a just kind of like an inefficient ball hog player? I think he's gonna take the step to be an elite scorer. I see it happening, but that's still a little bit of a question mark, which is why he's like 5 and not higher in my draft.
Yeah, the reason he's not higher in mine is also because of his size and that he's a guard. And you've mentioned before, that's definitely kind of more commodity in the NBA where, it's easier to come by a good guard rather than a good forward. And there's a couple good forwards I put ahead of him, of course. So he was 8th on my list.
Hey, I get it. People are falling off the bandwagon, but I'm staying bullish. I still like him.
And I do still like him too. But I guess if I were just redrafting right now, I'm still taking Scotty over him, Franz over him, and spoiler alert, Kuminga over him. But that's not to say
Ew.
I don't like Jalen Green. Yeah, I know that one's gonna be super fun.
Kuminga over Green is gonna be a clip. I don't know about that one.
Flip that. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, okay. But I like Jalen Green. Okay, I think he's awesome. I'm thinking he's going to be a great player. I know Houston fans are super bullish, some even more bullish on him than Sengun, which kind of perplexes me. But
and I think part of that is the eyeball test. Like Sengun like totally passes it, but like Jalen Green's highlights are incredible, and and I looked up for fun to see like if he was really undersized. He's like 6'4", so he's pretty big. I think he's an appropriate shooting guard size, incredibly athletic, super fast, super good on the break. I just think he's going to be an elite scorer.
Sean, where did he fall on your list?
So I had Green at 7. I think that, for me, I look at a guy like Green and it sucks that I guess he was drafted by Houston in some ways, and in other ways it's great because with a player like him, you kind of need to be in a system that's as poorly run as Houston has been over the last few years in order to give him the leeway to make mistakes and to be able to go and just kind of try anything. Like, all right, let's just see what I can do here. I have full reign. The leash is off. I can do whatever I want. At the same time, I think as much as I strongly disagree with Udoka being allowed to even be a coach in the NBA anymore, he is objectively a very smart basketball mind. And I'm interested to see now, okay, you have, somebody who knows what they're doing now. He's coached excellent wings in the past, obviously between Jason Tatum, between Jaylen Brown. I believe he was the assistant coach for the Nets when Kevin Durant was there. So, he's had experience with some of the greatest scorers in the game. It will be interesting to see if he can unlock that with Green, get him to be a little bit more disciplined in his shot selection, taking less of those mid-range pull-ups. But for now, I guess parlaying into my number 6 pick, I have Franz Wagner over him just because I feel like despite the fact he was drafted and has to play for the Orlando Magic, which as many people who know me know, I have long detested their franchise. And,
we love the Magic on this pod now. Be careful. This is a Magic podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at their team now and they've got a lot of interesting, nice little young players. But if you look at this draft in particular, look who they take at number 5. It's Jalen Suggs. And, again, this kind of goes to this complete, disaster class in franchise management that the Orlando Magic have exhibited over the last decade plus since they lost Dwight Howard, where you have a roster that, has Markelle Fultz, who is this reclamation project they take over from Philly. They just drafted Cole Anthony, and then, all right, let's take another point guard who desperately needs minutes. He's a a pass first player. And of course, over the last draft they drafted 2 other guards, one of which was also a point guard. I don't understand their franchise at all. But, Wagner comes in, he's fit right in with the team. He's an excellent counterpart to what they now have with Banchero. So I think that he's a little bit more, I guess, like NBA acclimated than Green is. I definitely is the kind of player that I would prefer to have on my own team if I was drafting. I do kind of hope that the Magic can put something together around him and Banchero. They have the pieces. They just really need to stop getting in their own way and making ignorant draft and free agent choices. Because, they completely missed on Suggs, who should have never been on that team to begin with.
Yeah, I know you can shit on the Magic for far longer than we have time for, but I like what they've been building recently, but I'm not going to argue that that's been a pretty disastrous franchise in recent history.
Oh, yeah.
But Franz was my 5th. I love Franz. He was a noted frog last year. The things he can do at 6'10", he is 6'10".
That's
and the
wild.
way he moves, the dunks he has, the dribble, the handle he has. I think he needs to develop his game. He came in very NBA ready, to his credit, but you kind of want to see another step in his development and kind of his efficiency. But, at the same time, he shoots the 3 ball at 36% last year. Efficient 2-point scorer. He's, again, 6'10", great pairing next to Paolo. So he's my 5th. And yeah, where did he fall for you, Harry?
I had Franz at 7. So to kind of like run through my last one. So it's like Jalen Green at 5. I then had Barnes at 6. I feel like Barnes and Green were kind of my last blue chip prospects where I feel like the ceiling is still incredibly high in them to where I'm willing to take that risk. Franz feels like a safer pick than Jalen Green for sure. Like, it's already clear what he can do. Great player. Going to be a great contributor for a very long time. Good shooter. Super smart player. But I feel like the ceiling might be a little bit lower on Franz than someone like Barnes or Green. Because Franz has the green light on the Magic. It's not like he's not like someone like Barnes where he's been losing touches to veteran guys like Van Fleet or Siakam. So it's like I think what we're getting out of him is fantastic, but I think his ceiling probably will be like a low 20 point per game score, which is really good. But I'm just like curious to kind of see what we can get out of Barnes and Green to see if it's gonna be a little bit more.
That is actually a really good point. We can't, like you what you see is what you get with Wagner, and there's not going to be probably much more to that, which isn't, again, a bad thing, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes, Franz was 7 for me.
I get that feeling too with Franz, where it's like you rarely see him really explode. He's very consistent, but he's kind of consistently like not as.
Yeah, he's an awesome player. Like, yeah, I could see him being like, I think he's like a better version of like Bojan Bogdanovic, where he's gonna be like this like awesome shooter, really smart foreign player. You can slap him in like small forward, power forward, and really elevate an offense. But I don't know if he's gonna be like your second best guy. I kind of feel like he's like an amazing 3rd/4th best guy on the team.
I mean, you want to keep it with the Magic, compare him, Evan Fournier. I think that's pretty apt as far as the No, I mean, you look at Evan Fournier when he played with the Magic. He was a very good, 2 to 3.
True, during his peak, yeah.
Yeah, no, now he's horrible. But I'm saying, like, prime Evan Fournier, when they were, it was him, Aaron Gordon, and Vucevic, he was a very legitimate, solid contributor. I mean, the Celtics got him for a reason. At the time, we thought we were getting this, 15 to 20 point per game scorer on really good 3-point efficiency, can play make a little bit here and there if he has to. Didn't work out, obviously, but yeah, I think that like that's kind of what we're seeing out of Wagner as far as like his career trajectory, which would be a very good NBA career if that's how it ends up.
Yeah, his inside scoring though, I think he's very good, and like the dunks he throws down, he's athletic. And unfortunately, wherever he goes, maybe he has his brother following, who I'm a huge hater of.
Mo.
So maybe brings the stock down that Moritz has to kind of follow him. Actually, he's the guy that got knocked out by Killian Hayes, which was mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little shout out there. Yep. Great bench scuffle.
Yeah, Franz was 5th for me.
Cool.
But,
So then how's the rest of you go? I think we've hit on a lot of like the same guys now, but for you, Paul, it was 5, and who's like 6 and 7 for you?
so sixth was Kuminga. Clip me.
God.
Seventh was Scotty Barnes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We can talk Kuminga. Okay.
Okay.
Go off.
We got 5 minutes left in the Zoom, so those will be my 5 minutes to talk about Kuminga.
Yeah.
We'll
Deal. And then we'll do a new one.
So yeah, as mentioned before, Kuminga is tied with Giddey. He's actually a bit younger than Giddey, so he's like the youngest out of all the players mentioned. The man is 20, and per 36 can be a dangerous stat to kind of rely on, but it's because he hasn't had a ton of opportunity with the Warriors being such a great franchise to really get like consistent high minutes. But when he's asked to step up, I think he manages to step up. And to me, he passes the eye test with such flying colors. So I have it here. Per 36, this year it was a bit worse than last year. This year he averaged 17 points per 36, 3 assists. He's kind of an underrated passer. He has some nice assists in his highlight tape. 6 rebounds. He shoots the 3 ball well enough. This year he shot 37%. I know, pretty good. And 2 point.
How many attempts per game? What, 2 attempts per game? Wide open corner threes?
No, 4 attempts per game.
All right.
That's pretty good, actually.
Not bad.
Last year, 4.5, and shot 34%. So he improved. And then 2-point percentage, 59%, 60% the year before. So I think the year before is a bit elevated because he got like less minutes and maybe a bit more garbage time minutes. This year he got some legitimate minutes, and there were times he legit stepped up as one of their top options. But yeah, no, he's like
just
super efficient.
To cut for stats, it's 4 threes per 36. It's like 2 threes per game. So he's not taking a whole lot of threes right now.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Quick fact check. I had to. He doesn't take a whole lot.
Okay.
But I do see the potential there a little bit. I still think Kuminga is like a high potential pick. There's like a couple other guys still on the board that I think have already proved it for me, and I'm gonna take those guys who are proving it. Kuminga may have the higher ceiling, being this like crazy athlete, really good defensive potential, still very good scoring potential as well. But I still have some question marks. I feel like the Warriors were really trying to give him that opportunity. They were like dying to have, like a starting power forward to kind of like run a lineup with, or maybe wouldn't even be starting with like a closing out lineup where they could do like Curry, Clay, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, something like that. Like they'd love to have someone to kind of fill in that death lineup where they used to have Durant. And I feel like they kept giving him the chance to do it, and he couldn't really do it when the team was healthy. So I still have some question marks about him, but not to say he's a bad prospect. I still have him going in the top 10.
Yeah, I think he's raw. I just kind of wanted to be a bit cheeky. I really do see the potential in him, and I'm not trying to take back the fact that I have him so high, but I don't know. For me, it's really the eye test to the max, and I think he's efficient enough to kind of back it up. And I really like Kuminga, and I think he has that potential to be an elite defender as well. That's another thing. Like he can guard 1 through 4, sometimes even a 5. He's just strong and like crazy athletic. Like he's one of those guys. The dunks he makes or the chase down blocks he has, you're just like jaw dropping. But I think there's definitely a risk of kind of high ceiling, lower floor than Scotty or Franz. So I took the risk. I think I would take the risk if I was the GM. Maybe that's why I'm not a GM. Kuminga, the GOAT.
We'll see. I think he'll get a big chance this year. What are your thoughts, Sean? Did you still have Kuminga in your top 10?
I did. I don't know if I have actually quite a few points on this. I know we're running out of time on this call, so maybe we just end this one real quick and jump to the next one because
let's do a new call. And then
where did he fall for each of you real quick, and then we'll end it.
I had him at 10, so he was like my last guy there.
And Sean?
I had him at 8.
Okay. So I mean 8, that's pretty high. Anyway, we'll be back for a part 3.
All right, where were we? Sean, you had some words you wanted to share about Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah, so a couple things that I've been thinking about with him recently. We're talking about Kuminga potentially becoming an elite defender, with him being able to guard all these different positions and having this elite level of athleticism. And, bringing it back to the Magic, I'm thinking of Aaron Gordon, and I'm thinking of how Aaron Gordon being on the Magic, being in, what was a clusterfuck of different players that were playing the similar or same position as him, he was never really able to be the type of player that he could be. He goes to Denver, finally plays with a structured offense, has arguably a top 3 passer of all time on his team, and all of a sudden now Aaron Gordon is this excellent defender in the playoffs. He's finishing all of these lobs and pick and rolls and pick and pops, and like he's finally unlocked, and he's finally that player that everybody was like, okay, he's not just winning dunk contests. Like Aaron Gordon is a borderline. I mean, he almost made the All-Star game last year. He didn't necessarily quite deserve it, but as far as the way you're looking at it, Paul, that's where I could see Kuminga at his absolute best, and I can see why you like have him the way that you do. And for me, what's interesting now with the Warriors is they have Chris Paul, and you think about this team and the way it's been constructed for a long time now, and Draymond Green and Curry and really Green was more or less their point guard. He's the guy that's distributing. He's the guy that's making the plays for them. And a lot of it is, screen action, pick and pop for Curry and Clay, for some of the other shooters that they've had throughout the course of this team's existence. And they haven't really had a guy, in a long time as a reliable pick and roll threat, really since Andrew Bogut. And you have, Kevon Looney, he's a decent player, not super athletic, but he gets the job done. He plays his role pretty well. But now you have Chris Paul. And to me, that's super interesting as far as how he'll be able to unlock Kuminga and be able to basically play to his strengths. And, that second unit that will come in, it'll be Curry, Clay, Draymond, Kevon Looney, and I'm not sure who they'll end up playing either at, I guess, would constitute like the 3 for them at this point. Like, I don't even know, honestly, truthfully, who they have. Maybe Moses Moody starts or something like that.
Yeah, they still got Wiggins, so I think Wiggins is the plug there. Small forward.
Of course, Wiggins. Yeah, I knew I was forgetting somebody like pretty big for them. But then you have that second unit coming in with Chris Paul and Kuminga, and that's going to be really interesting to me. I think next year the per 36 for Kuminga could look crazy with him because he's still not going to get probably more than 20 minutes a game, but with Chris Paul now being the guy who's in a lesser role, doesn't have as much pressure on him to, have to be the guy, to just be able to like work with him and make him a better player. I don't think he could have gotten a much better offseason for himself, in that now he has one of the best passers ever to potentially unlock him and really make him a better player. So would I have Kuminga that high? No, but I see where you're coming from, Paul, and there's definitely something there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. This could be very clippable, but again, he's young. I see the raw potential. Comparing the per 36, again, huge asterisk because it's per 36, but he's a more efficient and a better scorer than Scotty Barnes, for example. A slightly worse passer, probably a bit less versatile.
Scotty is not known to be a score-first player, though, I will say. You're kind of taking Scotty for his defensive intangibles and his passing.
Yeah.
Yes, fair enough, but so that point doesn't stand, I guess. But hey, Kuminga, I think I've said my piece. He's at 6 for me, so Franz 5, Kuminga 6. I almost want to switch Kuminga and Scotty, where I would put Scotty at 6, Kuminga at 7, but I'll stick with it. Jalen Green at 8. And do I say my 9th or maybe everyone run through their 1 through 8?
Let's see. I feel like we've already kind of like beat our 1 through 5s, but like maybe give like our 6, 7s, 6, 7, and then 8. If you haven't said your 8, Sean, who'd you have like 6, 7, 8?
Yeah, so I had Franz at 6, Jalen Green at 7. I actually had Austin Reaves at 8, and I had Kuminga at 9. So yeah, I mean Reaves, super completely exceeded expectations. I think it's pretty interesting that I was surprised that no teams ended up offering Reaves an RFA contract this offseason.
It felt like a bargain deal. Yeah, they got for like 4 years, $50 million or something. And expectations was it could have gone up to like 80 or 100.
A lot of people thought they were just going to end up getting, like, some team would go out and kind of throw out, like a 4 for 80 and basically just force the Lakers' hand into making.
Yeah, like you might as well make the Lakers pay for that. You're competing against them. I hate no one did that. That's kind of a side note. Austin Reaves was great though. Continue.
Yeah. No, just like, he's exceeded expectations. He played extremely well in the playoffs. Some really underrated playmaking. Him and Anthony Davis had a really good two-man game going, especially in the playoffs. Obviously a great shooter. He takes really tough, difficult shots. Being able to play along LeBron and Anthony Davis and just like assimilating and fitting in the way that he has, extremely impressive. And I think for the Lakers going forward, it's really important that they did retain a guy like him, just because with LeBron's age, Anthony Davis's injury history, you need to make sure that you have a contingency plan, and having a guy like him who now has playoff experience up through the Western Conference Finals and was very productive in that, he's proven he's a baller. He knows his stuff. He's, I think definitely top 10 in a redraft for this for sure.
That's the major green flag for me too, is that he meshes so well with that elite talent, and he comes in like he's been playing with them for years, just knows his role, super efficient.
Yeah.
And I totally agree that they got a bargain there with Austin Reaves. He might be like the third most important guy for them coming up this season. He is 25, so he's like 4.5 years older than my boy Kuminga. One of the older players, went undrafted, but super impressive what he was able to do. And he earned himself the 9th spot on my team behind Jalen Green.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I also have at 9. I thought he was very impressive last year. I thought he clearly fit in very well with a high level offense. Played super efficiently. Like his 3-point shooting is incredibly efficient, and that alone makes him so valuable. But he also just runs an offense really well. Like they were using him in pick and roll in the playoffs, and he operated very well out of it. He could pass well off it, shoot well off it. He could even get some cheeky drives. I think his driving is also pretty good. I think he's a complete player, and he's not really someone who's going to get there with his athleticism, but he's pretty crafty with his dribble. He's really good with his change of pace, and he's a lethal shooter, so people have to play him really deep. He's an awesome player that I think any team would like to have, which also kind of makes it a little bit of a head scratcher that no one was willing to offer him, some kind of deal, because he's making like $12.5 million a year right now. That is such a bargain.
Oh yeah, nice.
Its 2-point percentage was 63% this year.
That's excellent.
Yeah, like insane. And in the playoffs, I have his playoff stats here. In the playoffs, he averaged 17 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists on 40% from 3. Like that's insane. That's really good.
Yeah,
he's just an awesome player already. So like you're taking an awesome player off the board, and for some reason, you're just taking an awesome player in free agency.
Yeah.
Shout out Austin Reaves.
Yeah, he's awesome. So I think that leaves us all with one guy left. For me, my opening is the 8th spot. Is it for both of you? Is it the 10th spot? Do you have your last spot still open?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's 8 for you, Harry?
No, 8 is still open for me. I had Reaves at 9, Kuminga 10.
Right. Okay. But I think I think we all have the same player left.
Yeah, because honestly, like looking at the draft, I think there's only like one high quality prospect left, and I assume for all of it's Trey Murphy, right?
Yes.
For me, it was kind of.
This sounds like a no. This sounds like a no from Sean.
No, it was between him, and his teammate actually, Herb Jones was my other potential 10 pick. But I think, at the end of the day, like similar to my argument that I had with Scotty and Evan Mobley, not that Trey Murphy is going to be the face of the Pelicans or anything like that, but like similar circumstance of like ceiling, I think is higher for a player like Murphy. It's funny because, Herbert Jones, if you will, he definitely could have made it onto the meme tier for the naming segment of the pod.
For sure.
But, and he's a guy that I kind of, when I first heard about him, I didn't even know he was, I thought he was just like a non-real player. But he's proven me wrong. He's an excellent defender. He's a really good little role player for the Pelicans. They actually had 3 guys go in this draft who are all really solid players between Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and Jose Alvarado all were a part of this draft. So it's interesting that they kind of hit 3 for 3 on, 3 guys who are critical parts of their rotation now. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, Trey Murphy, definitely when Brandon Ingram was out, again, notable Jacksonville Python who totally let us down last year. When he was out, Murphy filled in really admirably, had a lot of really good games, showed that he could do a little bit of everything. I think it's interesting. I'm sure we'll get into it. I'll let both of you sort of give your final thoughts on your top 10, but there's a lot of guys after the top 10 that are all like, they're going to be NBA players for a while, but none of them were quite good enough to really, crack that top 10.
Yeah, Harry, so he made your 8th spot ahead of who are your 9 and 10?
So he's ahead of Austin Reaves for me and Jonathan Kuminga.
Okay. Explain yourself.
And the big reason behind that is like, one, for the Reaves comparison, I just like the idea of getting this young, absolute sharpshooter. He is an incredible 3-point shooter already, one of the better shooters in the league, big player, really talented in offense, can do far more than just shoot. So I like the ceiling of a player like that. And I like the idea of getting the same shooting that you get with Reaves in a way bigger and younger player. And as far as like someone like Kuminga, it's like I've just already seen it out of Murphy. I've already seen that he can be this great offensive player. And I think I'll just take that, especially when shooting is so valuable. I always feel like really good shooters can be underrated in drafts, and people will love to go for these guys who seem explosive, very high potential because of that. But if you've got a player that's going to shoot 40% from 3, the value of that is just as good, I think. And
Absolutely.
that you get that with Trey Murphy.
I agree.
Yeah. 6'8", again, yeah, shoots 40% on like 6 attempts, and that's not the per 36 I checked.
Yeah, and his range is crazy too. Like he can pull it from anywhere. He can shoot it off the dribble. Like I think his floor is like awesome 3-point shooting wing, and his ceiling can be higher than that because he can put the ball on the floor. Just really talented overall in offense. I think he's a great fit for the Pelicans. I think they got a total steal in the draft by taking him. And I'd have no problem taking him at that 8th spot.
Yeah, honestly, you're convincing me looking a bit closer. And like shoots 90% from the free throw. That's just like,
yeah, and he just passes the eyeball test too. Like I just watch him play, and I'm like, this guy's insane. He had several games last season scoring 30 plus. He had a 40 bomb somewhere in there in just his second season playing on a stacked Pelicans team, a good Pelicans team too. It's not like he's chucking up shots for a bad team. Like he's playing for a really good team and contributing to wins. And I just think he's sick. I just think he's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hate on this at all. I had him actually last year for a little while when Ingram was out. And he, like I said, I know he filled in pretty admirably, but I mean, looking at these stats here, I mean, 15 points per game on that team with as many other mouths to feed. That's very legitimate. He started 65 games last year. I mean, yeah, respect the choice for sure. Put some respect on Trey Murphy's name.
Yeah, I'm curious how many games Ingram played last year. 45. So yeah, that gave Trey Murphy plenty of opportunity to start. Yeah, no, I mean, you make a great case, Harry. Something like I guess I'm not super familiar, so I might be kind of talking out of my ass, but it feels like he's a bit streaky, and that you would want to see a bit like more games where he totally explodes. That's maybe the only criticism I have of him, because again, just being such a good shooter, kind of at his size is so invaluable. But I don't know. You almost right, like you wish we've seen more out of him at this point, or like that. He's
still young, so it's a little bit of a growth pick. If we'd been seeing like crazy consistency out of him, taking like 6 threes per game on 40%, like if we'd seen crazy consistency, then he'd probably be averaging like 18 to 20 points per game, and then all of a sudden maybe he's cracking the top 5 for us. So I think we are still waiting to see a little bit more from him, but I think part of that's also the role with the Pelicans. Because it's not really like they're asking him to be the focal point of that offense when they have so many other players. Even if they're always in and out of the lineup, they're kind of stacked. Like they've got tons of young players that they're letting do their thing out there. And And Trey Murphy's someone who it took a little bit of time for him to actually like crack the lineup and become a regular starter. Like to start off the season, he was more of like a backup, filling in when he could. And then as the season progressed, he got better and better and really started showing what he could do. So I'm very excited to see him play in year 3. I think he can very much be like a Cam Johnson type player. And I think the value of that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wonder, I guess, how high that ceiling goes. Because to me, it does seem like it might be kind of a third option on a very good team.
Second. Yeah, and maybe it's not even that. Maybe you're just getting like a rock solid 4th option. But I think you're getting like an immediate, guaranteed, ready to contribute NBA player who's going to be able to stretch the floor for you. And those kind of players can really kill teams in the playoffs. Like if you just got like your 4th guy who's this knockdown shooter who's also huge and can switch on defense, I just think that's an awesome piece. And I think sometimes when you're drafting the top 10, I think it's okay to take someone like that over someone who may have a higher ceiling in Kuminga. Even though I'm not totally sure about that.
Yeah.
No, I think you make it good. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I was just going to say, Harry, speaking hypothetically, higher ceiling than Kuminga. Or Kuminga.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, because we'll see.
Well, I was going to say a couple interesting points to sort of round out the Trey Murphy conversation is I agree with you, Harry, that it's like even if he doesn't kind of go above, being this quality starter caliber player who, isn't necessarily your 1, 2, even 3 player. I mean, you look at a guy like Malik Monk, and I know they're not like a 1-to-1 comparison, but in that sense of like you have your De'Aaron Fox, you have your Sabonis, and you have who's the guy that they just got last year, Keegan Murray, as your kind of 1, 2, 3. But then you have Malik Monk coming off the bench and torching you for like 15 a game on 45% from 3 or something like that. That's kind of the same role you could see a guy like Trey Murphy filling if he never ends up getting a bigger role in New Orleans. He's stuck behind Brandon Ingram, and in terms of like touches, guys like Zion are obviously going to get the ball more. But what's interesting is I actually went and looked at his game logs from last year. And in terms of the time that Ingram was out, was arguably actually his worst portions of the season. Particularly in January, he actually shot as low as 32% from 3. When Ingram came back, he was actually better. And the last 2 months of the season, he averaged 19 and 23 respectively on 45% from 3 and was shooting above 50% from the field. And he was starting pretty much every game at that point. So it's interesting to see that he actually was able to coexist with Ingram. And granted, I know at that point, Zion had basically been shut down for the season. So that's obviously going to open up a lot more touches for him too. But interesting to see. I definitely didn't realize I was unfamiliar with your game, if you will, Mr. Murphy, and I'm impressed. A good pick for sure, Harry.
Some of the transition threes I've seen from him that's like one of the biggest green flags because not only can he spot up, but like he will let it fly in transition and bury it a couple feet behind the arc. So respect.
Yeah. Trey Murphy's awesome. All right, y'all want to round out any other honorable mentions? I know so there's pretty big drop off after 10, but any other players are like this guy's at least kind of good?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
I was going to say Quentin Grimes, I guess, was a decently close 11th, a bit of a gap between him and Trey Murphy, I would say.
Yeah.
And some other notables. Cam Thomas has shown some upside, but, huge gap even between him and Quentin Grimes, I'd say. Trey Mann, Moses Moody, Santi Aldama, Bones Highland.
Yeah, really after 10, it's like we're getting to prospects now. And it's like we haven't really seen anything of these guys. We're kind of just banking on, maybe there's still some upside here. Like I also have like David Mitchell, who's kind of like a good benchmark for the Kings, but obviously like, the ceiling for Davion Mitchell is kind of like he is what he is at this point, scrappy defender, but he's just a backup point guard. So I think like top 10 worked out nicely because I don't think there's a whole lot going on, once you get past that 10 spot.
2 other prospects, though, that I think we should keep our eyes on is Yam Madar, the Israeli prospect, and Juwan Begerin.
Cool names.
Probably.
Why I say those 2 names?
Why?
They were the Celtics picks that year.
Ouch.
Interesting enough, they're both just like playing overseas and kind of decent, but I don't know. Their stats, I was looking into it. not great. Not a ton of improvement the year either.
Yeah, not a pick I hate that. It's like I don't mind when teams kind of grab those overseas guys when they say essentially like our roster is too full right now, so we might as well take someone overseas and just like see if that pans out.
Yeah.
Don't hate it. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks on this draft?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other guys that weren't mentioned. Obviously, Sam Hauser, we love that. As Celtics fans, he was in this. Alvarado, I mentioned earlier. Chris Duarte, decent little player for the Pacers. He's had some good moments for them. He started off really well, actually, in his rookie year. Less so last year.
Notably gone from the Pacers. Notably salary dumped, I think. But like he did show some upside in like 3-point shot.
Yeah, could be an NBA player. Like he could definitely he'll probably be in the league for a bit. Jeremiah Robinson Earl on the Thunder, he's decent. I've read a lot that they really like him in OKC. He's like a big locker room presence for them, so that's interesting. And I know I previously mentioned him, but Ayo Dosunmu just got a contract extension actually from the Bulls, I believe, yesterday. So he's another one, and the Bulls are kind of an example too, similar to the Magic, of a team that just has absolutely no idea how to like put together a roster and competently draft players. I feel like he's another guy that on a different team would probably be like, could be unlocked, could be a much better player. I mean, he gave the Celtics a bunch of problems multiple times last year. He was annoying to go up against, but I'm curious to see how he ends up developing, especially with rumors of a possible fire sale for Chicago coming up. But yeah, those were the only other guys I had. I guess the one final remark I would have on this draft, again, is still, you look at the top 10, and for the most part, even if the guys that were picked weren't like the best players for that team, you know, Cunningham, Green, Mobley, Barnes, Giddey, Kuminga, Wagner, all of those guys definitively like deserve to be in the top 10, undoubtedly. Most of them are already quality NBA starters, if not better. It still is crazy to me that Suggs goes 5. It's just
that hurts in hindsight for the Magic. They love drafting guards, though. They can't stop doing it.
No, and then I always kind of was like I never understood the Mitchell pick for Sacramento either, because this at the time too when they drafted him, I believe that they still had Halliburton, right? So they were drafting Mitchell to a team that had Fox, Halliburton, and I was just like, why? Because at that point they didn't obviously have Sabonis yet, so their starting center was like Alex Len or something. I don't know. That one was also kind of like, for a lottery pick, really? That's the best you could do there? I don't know.
Could be worse. They could have taken Josh Primo.
They could have taken Josh Primo. Yeah, he was notably not mentioned by me earlier, but I certainly,
It was a great draft, though, like you said. And for the most part, teams made a lot of great picks early on, not a lot of busts. And I think it could go down as one of the best drafts. So I think we should just recap real quick, 1 through 10, what we each had, starting with Harry, then Sean, then I'll finish us off.
Sure.
Perfect.
Yeah. Harry?
Yep, that works for me. Yep. So my picks were Cade, Mobley, Sengun, Giddey, Jalen Green, Scotty Barnes, Franz Wagner, Trey Murphy, Austin Reaves, and Jonathan Kuminga.
Wow. Sean?
Cade Cunningham, Sengun, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, Josh Giddey, Franz Wagner, Jalen Green, Austin Reaves, Jonathan Kuminga, and Trey Murphy.
And then I had Sengun, Mobley, Cade, Giddey, Franz, Kuminga, Barnes, Jalen Green, Austin Reaves, Trey Murphy. We put our next on the line, I think, today, guys, and maybe these will be clipped. Maybe my Kuminga clip will be memed on for years to come, but I think it'll be fun to look back and listen. Any closing remarks, Harold, as the host of the show?
No, I think you're right. And then if some of these end up being clipped, I think overall that's still great for our engagement. So still a win. That's what all the pros do. You got to throw your hot takes, see what sticks. Maybe get some wins, maybe get some losses along the way. But I think overall these are good lists. I don't think anyone's gonna get hit too hard from them. So thank you all for tuning in. Sean, thank you for joining for this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, everyone stay tuned and maybe we'll bring on some more special guests in the future.
I wanted to say thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciated the opportunity. I love talking basketball. I'd be honored to come on again at some point, but I wish the best of luck to both of you in continuing to grow this, and you'll see my my subscription, my contributions to the channel will only continue to grow.
We appreciate that, Sean. Like and subscribe,
God bless.
everyone. God bless.